Good morning.
It is.
I realize that when we're interacting like this, that you must be able to sense my vibration even beyond the words that I'm currently focused on.
We are more aware of your vibration than your words.
So when I ask a question and you're focusing on the specific words, you're also aware of areas of desire, areas that I've given attention in my life other than the specific things that I'm focused on at this moment, and you tend to answer the question, it seems like to me, in such a way that I can listen to whatever weekly tape comes out or whatever tape of this session that comes out afterwards for the next year and continue to hear more each time I listen to it.
Well, that is because we are speaking to you on many levels of your being. And what we are really doing is simpler than we are all making it out to be here. And we're going to speak it to you right here because as you hear this and feel the simplicity of it, it will serve you so very well relative to all things that you're wanting to know about. As we feel the vibration of you in this pointed moment, what we are really feeling for is the variable between the desire that has been born within you and your common, most practiced vibration relative to it. In other words, the range between what you desire and what you usually think or vibrate or feel around a subject is the only thing that ever matters. It doesn't matter what anybody else thinks, because what anybody else thinks doesn't have anything to do with your vibration and therefore doesn't have anything to do with your point of attraction. The only thing that has anything to do with your point of attraction is the vibration within you, which could be categorized in two pieces. There is the vibration of my desire and there is the vibration of my habit of thought, desire and belief. Sometimes, relative to these questions that you're hearing on recordings, people, especially those who are coming to these gatherings, are often asking universal questions. You're sort of world citizens. You are uplifters, wanting the world to be a better place and wanting your individual part within it to be that of uplifting nature. So as you pose your question that has been generated by what you've been observing around you in this world, we can feel the vibration of your question, and often it's a vibration that so many others are wanting. In other words, you are all speaking so often about well-being for most. And so then as we can feel the vibration of where you are, often the vibration of where you are is a vibration that as a mass consciousness you've pretty well picked up on. So as one of you focuses upon it and we chew together, everyone who's been anywhere near any of those vibrations is literally affected by it, even those who do not hear a tape. Yes.
I have a very good life. I'm living a life of basically contentment and well-being, and it's growing as I listen to more weekly tapes. And I was at the beach with some friends this summer, and I drifted from contentment into a little irritation because I wasn't catching as many fish as I wanted to catch from the beach. And I didn't really notice that I was drifting into that area of discontentment or slight irritation until I stepped off into the water and a small stingray caught me on my left foot, and the foot began to ache a little bit. So I started walking down the beach and showed some other people my foot and how it was starting to bleed, and talking about how more painful it was getting, how it started to hurt more, and I caught myself. I got to the point of discomfort that I just wasn't willing to tolerate anymore. And I started thinking about my desire about feeling better and feeling good, and it was not very difficult. I walked back in the water and remembered how I had had a lecture when I was in high school on the sea being the source of life, seawater being the source of life, and how many times I'd gotten into the water with a small cut or bite or something like that and felt the seawater soothe this physical situation. I could walk out of the water a few minutes later and find the bite or the cut or something practically healed on the spot. And so as I focused on the well-being coming from that particular vibration, I noticed something else instead of the pain, and that was a tremendous amount of energy that the cells in my foot were asking for. And so as I focused on their asking instead of whatever was causing my resistance, I felt a very strong energy flow, much stronger than the level of my basic contentment that I had been living in for the last few weeks and days. And I was just in awe of the amount of energy the cells were asking for and how much stronger it was than my normal waking consciousness. And I wanted to ask you about that.
Well, there are two things that you've given us that we really want to focus upon here. And the first is the one that is the most important to you here. You actually felt what you've been hearing us talk about for some time, that any time part of your body is out of balance for any reason, that the cells in that part of the body know what to do about it. In other words, they begin immediately asking. Remember, step one. Any point of consciousness, whether it's the cells in your foot or whether it's you fully focused and conscious, any part of you, any part of the consciousness that is you that begins asking is immediately answered. So as the answer begins to come, that's that feeling of energy moving. In other words, the cells were asking, and as you were walking along the beach, the reason that it was starting to hurt and bleed and swell and be uncomfortable is because the cells of your body were asking. In other words, more energy was coming, but because of your resistance, and anyone would feel it at that time, as you said, you got more and more resistant for a while. As you got more and more resistant, you were also feeling the energy. Now, the thing that we most want you to hear is that you felt the energy that was coming in response to the request of the cells. You felt it strongly while you were walking down the beach in a resistant state. And then when you got back in the water and you made a decision to focus upon something that made you feel good, focus upon the life-giving nature, then you felt the energy flowing in the experience of allowing. This experience, the reason that it is so dynamic and such a wonderful thing for you to have lived and for us to be able to discuss with you and others, is because you lived fully and described so perfectly what it's like when you ask and it is always given, and you had the experience of asking and it was given in resistance and asking and it was given in allowance. Isn't that a nice thing? Powerful.
I also think my foot appreciated it too, because when I walked out of the water a few minutes later, there was no bleeding. There was no opening in my foot that I could detect. There was just a very small spot.
Yes.
There was no pain.
Yes.
And there was just a general feeling of heightened well-being.
Well, you see, it's a wonderful thing, because we want to milk this a little more here because it's so good. When we say, or you say, a lot of you have been saying it, ask and it is given. Those are such important words to know because they are such true words. When you ask, even when you are resisting, it still is given. And even if you had not gotten back into the water and made a strong, determined decision that you were going to relax and let well-being happen, you still would have eventually achieved well-being, because the desire and the asking and the answering is much stronger than your resistance, especially at this point of your determination to be in a good feeling place. And so the point that we're wanting to make here is that we don't say ask and get into the receiving mode and it is given. We say ask and it is given, no matter what you are doing, whether you're letting it in or not. But it goes better for you when you let it in. It goes more quickly, and you feel the difference between asking and not letting it in and asking and letting it in. Because when you're asking for something that you're really not letting in, it's a heightening of the discord. When you ask for something that you really are letting in, it's a heightening of the bliss. And isn't it an interesting thing how you went from agony to bliss just by changing your mind?
Yes.
Just by focusing. It's powerful.
Really?
You were talking about how you were, without realizing it, feeling a little increasingly annoyed. And you blamed it on the fact that you weren't catching any fish. And what we believe was actually happening was the stingray was lurking there. You were invading his space, and there was a part of you at some level that knew that, and you were beginning to feel that aggravation because you were about to walk into an experience you really didn't want. But you're like so many, how you'll feel an emotion and you'll recognize that you're feeling the emotion, but you're not able to pinpoint what it is about. It doesn't matter what it's about. It means moving forward in this action or moving forward in this attitude is not serving me very well. So change the subject, change the action, do something different than what you're doing. In the future, as you bump up across this similar feeling, you may reflect back on this and you may say, I think I'll just step out of the water for a little while, or I think that I will change the direction of my thought. This happens to you all the time.
Yes, it does.
And you miss the stingray, so then you never knew what you missed. In other words, you miss traffic collisions, you miss traffic bog downs, you miss rendezvousing with obnoxious people. You miss all kinds of things by following your bliss. And you rendezvous with things less pleasant when you feel aggravation and you don't change the thought or change the action or do anything and everything that you might do to bring yourself relief.